Assalamu alaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Hope you're doing well. So, PearlyThings is really spreading a lot of bad advice. And I personally think it's just paid parroting. Because if you're a woman and you have children and you've been in a relationship for a long time, I've been in the relationship with my children's father for almost it's over 12 years, so it's about over 13 years. When I first converted to Islam, I almost left, but I forgave him for what he did, and he seemed to repent, and his faith in Islam is not as strong as I want it to be, but he works on it, and I have a lot of experience with him, with how you change as you go on, and what it's like to stay with somebody when you could have left, and you give them a second chance and whatnot. And so when I hear PearlyThings talk about the things that she's about women accepting adultery, about how often you should cook, or you shouldn't ever withhold sex and stuff like that, you begin to kind of see she has no real experience, because being in a relationship is, when it's so committed, you're going to go into some pitfalls. You're going to go through your ups and downs. Now, I finally got married on paper, because before I had a mindset of marriage is literally just a piece of paper. The government shouldn't be involved. And then I realized in Islam, like, you have to get married, right? It's you don't have to get the government involved. However, if your partner is an immigrant, you should be married on paper, because it helps with immigration security. And that's a fact. And I'm not going to debate that with people, because I have spoken to lawyers, and it helps them to secure an American green card if they're from another country. And so it's important that people not fall for too many of the things that Pearly says, because her constant fetishization of adultery is going to fly out the window once she has children. She has never suffered pregnancy. She's never endured pregnancy. And the last thing she's going to want when she's pregnant is for her man to go and bang some Instagram thotty and come back to her stenching of another woman. She's not going to like that. And if she has a miscarriage because of the fighting and the emotional trauma, she'll forever go to her grave knowing that her man caused her so much stress that it ended up causing a miscarriage. Okay? Low birth weight babies can come from women who are highly stressed during pregnancy. This is a fact. Stress on pregnant women is bad. When men cheat, they cause stress to their women. That's a fact. And no amount of gaslighting and pornography is going to change that for most women. And the risk of an STD during pregnancy when your man cheats is very high. And if you're going to help him to use condoms and lecture him about being safe, and you're going to hope and pray, whatever, that the girl he's cheating on you with doesn't have a disease, you're really hurting your own self. You should be hoping that he never cheats and encouraging him never to cheat, because the risk is very dangerous to you and your baby. Now, when a woman gives birth and she's suffering from stitches, whether she had an episiotomy, whether she had a C-section, you name it, and she's recovering, she is not going to enjoy having her husband out and about screwing other people. That's just not something that's going to be condoned at all. At all. And she's going to hate it. She's going to hate it with all her heart. When the baby's crying, when the baby's colicky, when she's changing diapers, when she's severely sleep deprived, and her hormones are fluctuating, she's bleeding, right? Because you have 30 days sometimes of bleeding. She's not going to want to say, okay, honey, I'm going to take care of the baby. Now you go have sex with other women. She's not going to like that. So the things that she is promoting, as in, well, if he's rich, you should just accept adultery, turn a blind eye, he's a high-value man. You don't have to like it, but you have to accept it, and you should stay for the children. This sort of satanic sex magic talking points, this mind control that created feminists, is just not good at all. Just not good at all. And so we have to be very mindful of what kind of advice she's giving. It's quite hilarious how the right-wing Christians and the sort of red pill Muslims take her as an icon for relationships when she literally embodies everything they don't like. She's career driven, never been married, isn't a virgin, shows her legs on camera, free mixes with men. She just accepts money to say things men want to hear. You should take a step back as a man and ask yourself, what are the percentages that a woman I pressure into accepting adultery harms me in a homicidal way? What are all the negatives that can come? And you will see that the list is very high. So this tune that the lust demon is singing through the mouth of Pearl is going to get you into some sticky situations that your life could literally be ruined. Do you want your daughters to look at you as a dirty man whore who can't keep it in his pants? I, for one, have my father is a fornicator. He cheated on my mom when she was pregnant. His last 2 women were strippers. He's a fornicator. I'm not proud of that. I wish I would have like a more noble dad who is just better. It's just a classic Americana, classic Italian, just a good, down-to-earth, salt-of-the-sea man. But he's a womanizing individual, and it doesn't feel good as a daughter to have a father like that. It doesn't feel good because you don't feel protected, you don't feel safe. Alright? My dad used to sleep naked with his women. They would leave the door open as a kid. You see your own father's nudity. It's not cool. The sexual hedonists, they push the limits. And it starts with women like Pearl, who are telling women with children who are financially dependent on their men that they should just accept adultery. A woman who helps a man to sin, who helps him to harm the mind and soul of the woman who bore him children, is not a friend to men. If you are a woman and you are softening how sick adultery is, you are a sinful servant of death and a servant of evil, and you are not on the side of goodness. You're not on the side of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. You're not on the side of the family unit, because it is supposed to hurt for adultery to happen. And when she cites statistics about, well, people in the past did it, so obviously women just stayed and everything, it doesn't make it right. You don't say, well, because people cheated in the past, therefore women today should accept it and not walk away from a gross pig who can't keep it in his pants and who's banging chicks in the back of his car or in hotel rooms or at the office. No. That is why women became to say, we want to work and go to college because we don't want to be forced into marriages with piggish, gross men who are going to cheat on us. I remember a story in the past when a soldier came home and caught his wife with someone else. It was tragic and he was hurt by it. I encouraged in that video called Soldier Wives that they should try their level best to stay loyal. Just control your urges. Don't cheat on your husband when he deploys. Be faithful to him, and hopefully he'll be faithful to you in the land he goes to fight in, that he doesn't find a local prostitute and do something, right? We should urge people to become better. We should never enable and aid and abet fornication and adultery, because it will always lead to trouble. It will always lead to harm. It will never have good fruits because it is condemned in Christianity and Islam. It is fully condemned. By their fruits you shall know them, don't the Christians say? And what kind of fruit can grow from an adulterous piece of shit man who does something gross like that? It can't. Alright? And a man who makes excuses, oh, I had to cheat. I just had to. I mean, my wife was tired and, she's gone 2 months without giving me any. Ugh. She doesn't get to shower whenever she wants and she's tired. She's taking care of the children. She's cooking for me and cleaning. And, I'm just such a horny alpha man. And some thotty wanted to let me plug her in the back of my truck, and so I did it. I mean, how dare she not like that? After she's working so hard for the family. I mean, she's so bad. And now she wants a divorce. You see what I'm saying? What kind of man doesn't just say, you know what? I screwed up. I shouldn't have done that. I'm not going to do it again. Ya Allah, help me. Help me to endure. Help me to have patience. Give me the strength, like the kind Prophet Yusuf, may Allah be pleased with him, had when a beautiful woman tried to lure him and he feared Allah and he didn't want to touch another man's wife, and he was single at the time, I believe, and he knew that fornication was wrong. He feared Allah more and did not let his penis control his brain. We should be pushing men to do that. Okay? And so, people like PearlyThings who are trying to slowly get men to be like, yeah, we should be allowed to cheat. Hell, we got money. So why doesn't my bitch wife just let me go on and cheat on her? This Tony Soprano type of attitude. This is ridiculous. And if you find it, it's really interesting. If you look at even that Tony Soprano energy, Carmela Soprano was not happy with Tony cheating. And was the materialism good? It wasn't. Okay? It was not good enough to keep the pain away. It's not good. Adultery is never something that's going to bring sanity to the mind of the woman who has to see it. And just because a woman's getting old, you don't get to cheat. Just because she may have a sickness, like if a woman has like a heart surgery, she gets back surgery, hip replacement, some type of medical procedure, and she really can't have sex with you, and then you go and cheat, you're a sinful asshole. And we have to, and I'm doing some curse words because it's disgusting seeing these young red pill Muslim men and right-wing Christian incels just talking about how bad you can treat women in marriage because they're no longer beautiful, or they don't put out enough, or because they don't want to be emotionally present for their women or give them the right attention, and they want to pay money to Pearl so that she can deliver a message to the women. See, in Pinterest culture, the woman is used to brainwash the young, naive girls into accepting things they shouldn't accept. It's the Ghislaine Maxwell technique, right? Let's call it that. Pearl is the Ghislaine Maxwell of the red pill movement because she is trying to, like a snake, like a cobra, like a black widow, get in there, spread filth in the minds of women, get them to rebel against Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's command of don't fornicate, don't do adultery. And she is saying that if you have money, you should not be expected to stay loyal. If you consume Pearl's content, which I've started to do, because seeing her ripple effect pop up, I don't like it, because I have 2 daughters. I want my daughters to marry good, husbands. I want them to have good, loyal husbands and never get a divorce. And I don't want them to be cheated on. I never want to have that conversation because I won't be so kind to that man. I'll be a mother-in-law, get the shotgun. No, we're not doing this. And so it's important for the young men to think of all the danger and to fear Allah Azza wa Jal. They should feel the real-world consequences, fear the destruction of their family, fear not being disciplined, fear getting a disease, and that poor woman they cheat on his wife with, if she gets a baby, that poor innocent child will suffer because their father was a disgusting pig who couldn't keep it in his pants. And now that child won't really have a real childhood. They'll suffer. It's totally a mess. A disaster. Disaster. Be mindful of the pick-me agenda. The pick-me agenda to just say back like a black mirror what the men want to hear is going to lead them astray. And PearlyThings is somebody who enables adultery, is encouraging adultery, and if you really just, I'm telling you, you're a fan of hers, take a step back and think, Is what she's saying allowed in Orthodox Christianity? Is what she's saying allowed in Sharia law? What is the rationalization? And if you had come to the conclusion, which is no, ask yourself, what tradition is she pushing? What tradition is she pushing, and how is she different than the sexual revolutionaries? How is she different? She's trying to destroy monogamy by enabling adultery, and she's mixing polygamy with fornication, which is not the same. She sits there and says, well, it's a man's nature to cheat, but we are not animals. We're not supposed to go against what Allah commanded. We are supposed to get to our sort of higher level of understanding, a higher level of God consciousness, taqwa, and to not act on our base desires. And sex is a base desire. So really analyze what is the subliminal messages, the implications, both direct and indirect, that she is spouting, and what will happen in a society and in a household that follows her advice. Remember, do not listen to a horny, lonely woman who's approaching 27 about marriage. Be careful. She's having consultations, she says, with men, hearing all their complaints. She's only hearing one side of the story. In a marriage, there's so many nuances. There's people who are both at fault. But she may have some good points about how stupid some women can be. But she's not being fair by not pushing back. She doesn't push back against the men or correct their notions because she has no framework. She has no moral compass. Because she's not obeying the edicts of Christianity or the edicts of Islam. She is having her own red pill human philosophy, and her being desperate to get married and have children is impeding her judgment. Because if she had judgment that was proper, she would critique both sides. She would be an advocate for one side, but admit the faults of the side. But the fact that she is softening how disgusting and horrible adultery is shows you that she's not being genuine. She's creating loopholes and scapegoats for men to engage in weak behavior that will earn them hellfire. If you push men to do activities that earn them hellfire, you are not their friend, and you should not be advising them. All my brothers are younger than me, half black, handsome, and if they told me that they were getting ready to cheat on their wife, I would grab them by their shoulders and shake them and be like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Stay loyal. Come on, what's wrong with you? I would try to really just talk to them, give them dawah, even though they're not Muslim, and say, don't do that. Don't do it. Pearl, on the other hand, is like, well, women of the past, they didn't walk out. And, if she walks out, she's a modern woman. Modern women are such crappy wives. She should totally just turn a blind eye. She should have known that you would do that because if you have your money, you have women throwing themselves at you. How could you just resist? Poor you. You just have so many women coming to you. What kind of man can say no to just a woman pushing herself? Really. You see what I'm saying? Really change the tone of what Pearl is saying and look at just the words and the messaging, and it's like the spell breaks. Be mindful. Be mindful, because on Judgment Day, you're going to, oh, well, Pearl told me this and I acted on it. Be careful. Be mindful. She's going to throw a lot of red pill stuff out the window once she suffers pregnancy. And pregnancy is a beautiful thing, but it is difficult. When her heart changes, when she holds her baby for the first time, when she feels this desperate need to protect her child, and when she's going through postpartum, she's going to change, hopefully, God willing. And she's going to look back, I hope, in horror at the dumb thing she said when she was a horny, old, aging woman. You have to be careful. Some women speak of their own lust and desires, and they're not really thinking about what happens when some people follow their advice. And horny single men listening to a horny single woman about how people should be in marriage is the stupidest thing ever. Be careful. That's all I'm saying. Be very careful.